What's up, y'all? TBrown31 here with JaboctheGreat. Once again, we're back with another episode of the Last Word podcast. Today, we got a bunch to talk about. We had a crazy weekend in the NFL, of course. We're going to start with the Ravens and the 49ers, probably heading into the game, one of the games of the year. Both teams with 11 wins, 11 and 3, top of the conference in the AFC and NFC, respectively. This one didn't turn out to be much of a game. You correctly picked this one, and I think most people were at least surprised with how this one turned out. 33-19 Ravens, but it really wasn't close, to be honest here.
Yeah, this is one that even in picking, I didn't expect it to be this big of a win, and obviously it's not as massive as a win as it was throughout parts of this game. The Ravens ran away with it pretty early in the third, and then the Niners at least scored one more time in the fourth to try to bring that deficit back down. This is a weird game all the way around. I mean, at the end of the first quarter, it was a soccer or a hockey score 5-3, and then it took off from there. Mostly the Ravens took off from there. But a good game all around, pretty much, for the Ravens here. Lamar Jackson goes 23 for 35, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Led his team in rushing with 45 yards. Gus Edwards and Justice Hill split the carries, both getting 9 and 10. And they got 31 and 26 yards out of those. Edwards would add in a touchdown. Feel like he kind of gets one every game. He's really good in that close area towards the red zone, or in the red zone, getting into the end zone. Zay Flowers continues his pretty strong connection with Lamar Jackson after actually a few weeks ago kind of falling off in targets. He comes up in this one, surges with 72 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown was after another unfortunate turnover from the Niners. It was a one-play drive on the Zay Flowers touchdown, but a good game for him nonetheless. Isaiah Likely continues his connection with Lamar, getting 56 yards. I guess Edwards got 40 on just one reception. And then Nelson Aguilar had a few tough receptions where he got tackled and wasn't able to get too far, but was able to notch in a touchdown on 10 yards total. And then we have the stories of the game here, pretty much. Marlon Humphrey, Patrick Queen, and Kyle Hamilton all got interceptions off of Brock Purdy. A lot of them were tip interceptions. Kyle Hamilton actually got 2 off of Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions. And we were watching the game. Although I called the Ravens to win this game, and I would say I wanted them to win the game, I was defending Brock Purdy to my family and was like, yeah, he's more than a game manager, especially one of the good things he does is he doesn't turn the ball over that much. Well, my granddad was like, I thought you said he didn't turn it over that much after his third one, and then the fourth one came. Some of them, were tips, but at the end of the day, when you throw 4 picks, you kind of have to throw out the cause of them. It doesn't matter if it was a tip drill or not. 4 of them is still is crazy. But the party didn't end there. Brock Purdy would end up taking a little bit of a hit that would aggravate a stinger he took last week. And I think Kyle Shanahan, due to the score, just didn't want to put him back in because he ended up being cleared to play. Sam Darnold came in, and Marcus Williams said, hold on, guys. I want an interception, and picked off Sam Darnold towards the end of the game, very, very end of the game. Also important for this game, Justin Tucker goes 4 for 4 on his field goal attempts as the Ravens, except for a few of the early drives and a few of the ending drives, pretty much scored every time they walked down the field. Again, one of these drives was a one-play drive because they were right there at the end zone, 9-yard touchdown to Flowers, but otherwise, just a really efficient day for the Ravens. For the Niners, efficiency is probably not what we would say. Brock Purdy goes 18 for 32, 255 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, one of the worst touchdown-interception ratios we have covered this season, and out of a guy that, as I explained to my granddad, is not something you would expect it from. As I said, he did end up leaving the game, pleaded his case to come back in, but I think Shanahan knew that there's not really a need to risk him getting more banged up at the end of this game. And Sam Darnold played decently well when he came in, 8 for 14, 81 yards, threw a touchdown to give them a little bit of hope, led them down the field to get in a chance to, they could maybe score, go for an onside kick and try to score again. An unlikely shot, but he tried to give them a shot, and then he threw that pick to Marcus Williams, but did pretty good. While he was in, only had 1 rushing attempt, but it was a 9-yard scamper that got them a first down. So, I think he did what he had to do when he came in the game. Brock Purdy was obviously one of the top MVP candidates coming into this game. So were Lamar Jackson and CMC. Lamar Jackson definitely built himself up as the front runner. Brock Purdy hurt his case a little bit I'd say CMC still did enough work to keep himself up there in that conversation. Got 103 yards and a touchdown on the ground, 28 yards in the air. He was pretty much just one of the main forces of this offense. George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, though, were also up there, getting 126 yards and 113. Debo got 47 yards, but Ronnie Bell, the rookie, would actually be the only person to catch a touchdown for the Niners. It would be a 12-yard strike from Sam Darnold. So I don't think anybody would have expected the Darnold to Ronnie Bell touchdown connection, but it was there and it helped them try to get in. But ultimately, after forcing a safety where Lamar ran 40 yards back to the end zone and tripped over a referee, um, and then getting a field goal after the drive, they led 5-0. Then they just fell apart. The Niners just could not hold on to the ball, and the Ravens defense was huge in this one. I mean, their offense was great, but you got to give credit to the Ravens defense. They showed why they were the top defense, and really, they helped the Ravens cruise to a victory over the Niners. Lamar is now 20-1 against the NFC, and is looking to have the Ravens in Super Bowl favorite position.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ, it's really simple. You can't win a football game. I'm not even going to count Sam Darnold's pick at the end. You cannot win a football game throwing 4 interceptions. And then the fact that he threw so many in the first half too, right? Like he threw 3 of them in the first half, then he had that fourth one in the second half, and it was still only 16-12, which is like I don't know how. A lot of the Ravens drives, they only got a field goal, so that obviously, it could have been worse, right? And it did get worse, once we got to the third quarter and they exploded. Once they got that fourth pick, simple touchdown on one play to save Flowers, and that was it. And it was like, all right, once they got to that point, and then we were only 5 minutes into the third, barely, not even that. I was like, yeah, it's over. I mean, they can't come back from this, and I don't know how many games in history where a quarterback's thrown 4 picks in one. I mean, I know the playoff game with the Jaguars and the Chargers from earlier this year. Like it's not something that happens very often, and it just wasn't going to happen in this game. Ravens are too good of a team to let the Niners come back, and maybe if that little bit of time at the end of the game and everything, when Sam Darnold came in, and then they had that drive where they went down, scored, and then they immediately forced the punt from the Ravens. Like maybe, but there's only like 3-4 minutes left when they got the ball that first time, or that last time, I should say. Like, there's just not enough time for them to get 2 scores back. Like maybe they could have gotten a score if they had scored, before the 2-minute warning, which they didn't. And I think that pretty much kind of ended it for them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not even with the interception, right? Because it's just like, yeah, you really wanted to score before the 2-minute warning, try to do an onside or kick it deep, force them to punt again, then maybe drive. But it just wasn't enough time. So I didn't really think that there was too much of a chance. Maybe if there had been like 8-9 minutes left when they scored that first touchdown to make it 33-19, maybe. But nah, it just wasn't really in the cards for it, to be honest. They just there's really not much to say. I mean, even with the Ravens only getting field goals with some of these drives, like they capitalized literally every single time they got a turnover. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. When we made our picks, I said I figured this would be a close game. I don't remember the exact score I predicted, but it was, it wasn't going to be, 40-37 or anything. 24-21 something, close, but not too much scoring there. But the turnovers would be the difference. I think, that's what I said. If the Ravens were able to get turnovers, that could make the difference. I just never expected it to be like this. I mean, it was pretty much every drive for the Niners in the first half. I mean, it was ended the turnover almost. It seemed like um, it is. There's just not really too much to say. I mean, they got a turnover and they either took the ball down, got a touchdown or got a field goal, put points up. I mean, Lamar had a great game, like you said. You read off his stats. 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a pretty good game. Also led in rushing. So I mean, he had not a godly game, but he had a good game. And when your defense is getting turnovers the way they did and putting you in such good field position, all you have to ask him to do is, hey, make some plays, score. And that's what they did. So yeah, there's not really much else that we can really say, about this game specifically. I mean, maybe if you take away two of the interceptions, it would have been closer, but like it just there was just nothing really going for the Niners, outside of those two drives. They were able to actually get down the field and score. Um, I felt like they should have given it to McCaffrey a lot more than they did early on, because he had a pretty good game, and it wasn't like all his stats came in garbage time either. It's just they didn't they didn't give him the ball as much, and they couldn't connect with him as much early on, as I did a little bit later when they were already down. So yeah, I think this obviously right now this proved the Ravens are the best team in the league. I think this probably made Lamar the MVP favorite. Definitely killed Brock Purdy's chance for sure. But McCaffrey, of course, he still had a good game besides that. But obviously, when you have Lamar play the way he did, and the team play the way he did, that's going to help his case a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the Ravens definitely. I think they did what I said they do when we made our picks for this game, and it was that not do I necessarily think that the Ravens are completely a better team than the Niners. You can probably make the case still that the Niners are the best team in the league. The Niners are just sometimes a little mistake prone, and when they get into a hole, they can't seem to get out of it. And that 5-0 lead or 5-3 lead they took wasn't big enough to hold on to the rest of the game. And I mean, the Ravens just put them in a hole and was able to force so many mistakes and so many turnovers. Usually what we see is that the Niners just can't keep up because they get into a scoring hole and they can answer, but they can't stop once the other team gets rolling. Unfortunately, in this one, they couldn't stop the Ravens, and they kept giving the ball to them in favorable position. And I mean, you got Justin Tucker, Lamar Jackson, and Zay Flowers, and I mean, there's just a lot. If you give them the ball at the 50, they're at least going to get three most of the time. And that's the story of this game. Niners drives and then turnovers. Ravens drives are going to end in field goals or touchdowns, and you're going to see a pretty big win here. So, yeah, I think it's pretty fair to say that, at the very least, it looks like they are the best team in the league because they can handle the 49ers. They might not stack up completely on paper, but I think they showed that they're the best team currently, and that the AFC is going to be in trouble. We'll have a crazy matchup when they face against the Dolphins for some reason at 1 p.m., where a lot of people won't get to see it. Uh,
Man,
but but that'll be a season-defining game for both of those teams, as the Ravens have been good against winning teams, and the Dolphins have only beaten the Cowboys as far as winning record teams go. But that's going to be massive in determining who gets what seed and what happens from there. And I mean, that's good. The Ravens just look like the juggernaut of the NFL right now. The Niners still look like they could come out of the NFC, but the Ravens just showed that Purdy is not superhuman. He's not invincible. You can force some turnovers, even if it means you have to send guys to tip the ball to other guys. You can still do that. Maybe the Ravens defense, being the number one defense in the NFL at the moment, are more capable of that than other teams, but this is a good showcase by the Ravens to put the league on notice on Christmas night.
yeah, and just to finish, that Dolphins game is now even more important because if the Ravens had lost, it would still be an important game. But now with the Ravens being one game up, still this game is literally for the number one seed.
Yeah.
Unless the Browns they went out, and then I think the Ravens might have to lose out. I'm not sure exactly because they're yeah. So I'm assuming the Ravens have to lose out, Browns win out, and I guess some other tiebreakers have to happen if the Browns were able to get it. Not exactly sure, but I know the Chiefs, they're completely done. Obviously, whoever wins the South can't do it. So it's just between those three teams. So in essence, this game is for the number one seed. So, of course, the past few years, only the one seed gets to buy now with that extra playoff team. So it is incredibly important because obviously no two seed has lost to a seven seed yet. But with the seven seed, six and seven seeds, and the AFC possibly being good teams, maybe you can get an upset. I think an upset is more likely than before, um, but it's just not super likely. So the main thing there is just having to play an extra game really and not get that rest because possibility of injury, you still can lose the game. Possibility of just in general having more wear and tear on your body before playing another game, which would be against the highest seed remaining. So it still is important to get that number one seed. So yeah, it sucks that this isn't on at like 8 o'clock or even 4 o'clock because they could have switched it with the Chiefs Bengals game, which now, obviously coming into the season, it's the AFC Championship rematch or rematch again since they played the past 2 years. But they're on a back quarterback. Jamar Chase is still injured. Chiefs haven't been as good. I think this would have been a perfect time to literally just swap the Miami Baltimore game with the Cincinnati Kansas City game. And since it's too late for do that, it's unfortunate. But yeah, this game is insanely important. Whereas for the Niners, it's hilarious, but they're still, for the most part, in the driver's seat. They still obviously need to win these last few games. But it didn't kill them because, of course, AFC versus NFC, it's not going to affect the conference record, not the division record, stuff like that. So sucks. Obviously, they would have wanted to be able to just take that game up, especially with the Lions and now the Eagles being right there with them again. But hey, like crap happens. This was a bad game for the Niners, a great game for the Ravens. It's really simple as that. And if these teams were to meet in the Super Bowl, you would not expect it to go like this again. But you can't take anything away from Lamar. Definitely not away from that Ravens defense.